well, just, yeah, what was that initially attracted you to getting involved in I Am Woman and to this character in particular?
I read the script years ago. I think I was the first person attached, actually, a long time ago. And I read the script on a park bench in New York. I remember I was doing press for another film at the time, and I had been so super busy and crazy and kind of like lack of sleep. And I sat down and I was like, I need to read this, just like read it so that I can mark it off my list. And I ended up just like sitting in that park crying at the end. And I was like, oh, okay, this one actually got me. And that was kind of what initially drew me to it. I thought it was just a beautiful story of empowerment and like people supporting each other. And also, I knew the song I Am Woman growing up. I don't remember when I learned it. I just kind of always knew it. And I had no idea that Helen Reddy was Australian. I had no idea of her story. And it's so funny that such an iconic song that so many people know, that has inspired so many people didn't know the life of that woman. And so I thought it was kind of an amazing story to be able to tell that.
It's funny you say that you had no idea Helen was Australian, because I had no idea you were Australian. Because is this your first Australian project? Yeah. How was it sort of making an Australian movie for the first time?
It was strange, but really cool. It was bizarre because I think that I see a lot of my world in my work world in America, and then I see my like family in Australia, and to meld the two was entirely insane because I had, you know, my grandma on set and my parents and my sister, and I was like, this is so crazy because they're seeing what I do every day and I'm filming in places where I grew up, and that's bizarre. It's a strange feeling, but it was also very homey. I felt like very confident just being able to be in Australia in an area I know, doing something that I don't usually do. That I don't know. It was very interesting. It was cool though.
So obviously it was sad to hear about Helen passing away last week. Did you get the chance to meet her at all? Did she come down to the set?
I didn't get a chance to meet her. No, I was meant to. There was a big Australian event after the film had wrapped where they were honoring Helen in LA, and I was at a film festival and I couldn't make it. So I unfortunately missed out, but I know that Tilda did, and Unjoo has been friends with Helen for years, so I know that it was hard on them. I was talking to Unjoo and Tilda last week, and I know it was kind of one of those things where it's absolutely heartbreaking and horrible to hear, and I'm really glad her story's out there, and I'm glad she got to kind of see it, and I don't know, it's such a hard one.
Yeah. So what sort of legacy does she leave behind? Because I mean, this song, I mean, it transcended kind of pop culture and became an anthem for a whole movement, didn't it?
It really did. It really did. I mean, it's funny when you hear stories from people about how the song has affected them. It's funny when you ask around, but it's amazing that song is still so relevant. It's when anyone asks me about the project, they're like, "Oh, what movie are you doing?" And I'd say, "Oh, it's a biopic about Helen Reddy." And they're like, "Oh, I don't know that." And they're my age, so you know, they don't. But then I'd say, "Do you know the song I Am Woman?" They're like, "Oh yeah, of course." There's not one person that didn't know it. And they kind of just have this, "Oh yeah, that's like the song that you just, I don't know, like feel inspired by, that you chant to, that I don't know." It's she just leaves behind a huge legacy, like kind of inspiring a generation of women to speak up for themselves. And I think that's incredible.
So was there much available to you for your character of Lillian? Did you have much kind of reference points?
There wasn't a ton, but there was some stuff. Yeah, there was a book that was a really detailed biography of her life, actually, which was incredibly helpful. There was like a little hour-long documentary about Lillian, the mother of rock, and that was cool. And I had like just a tiny little clip of what she sounded like in there. And then there is other clips I got sent from her speaking on radio. But I found that funny because the way that she spoke on radio was so different to that like one clip that I heard her just talking to her friend in the dark, and I was like, oh wow, she has a radio voice, and then there's her normal voice. So there wasn't any video footage. I didn't really get to see how she moved and all that, but I think you just kind of take what information you can and go off of that, and then it's creative choice with the director, and you figure it out from there. And the stories, just everyone said, bigger than life, you know, she's just rule the room.
And I'm a big fan of the kind of just the musical biopic. I thought this was really kind of quite affectionately kind of played to the beats of that kind of subgenre. But in regards to the kind of musical biopic, who's a musician you'd love to see a movie made of that you haven't yet seen a film of?
Oh wow, that's a really good question.
I put you on the spot.
This is really hard. I don't know. There's too many. Like, oh, I'm trying to think. Like teenage me now. Who would I want to see? There's so many. I was like really into like all the like pop rock as a teenager, like all the Blink-182s and stuff. So I'm pretty sure that would be very cool to see like how those bands started, how they had like they were at the height of their fame, and you know where they are now, kind of thing. I feel like I'd be really fascinated with like a Blink-182 one or something like that. Yeah.
According to IMDb, which is obviously where I do all of my most important research, you're in the untitled Bo Burnham project. And there's not really a more exciting sentence at the moment than an untitled Bo Burnham project, because I can't wait to see what he does next. How excited are you to be collaborating with him on that movie?
He's great. He's really, really great. And he's a really good writer. And I think he's going to do so many amazing things in the future. I am not sure when that is happening, obviously, like with the state of the world right now. But we did meet earlier on and discuss it, and it's something really cool. I hope it happens, because that would be really, really cool. It's just right now, everything's up in the air with what's going on. So it's just like, we'll wait and see. But he's amazing. He's going to keep working forever and doing things forever. So I think you'll definitely see his next thing very soon.
Yeah. Did you see Eighth Grade then? And how much when you get sort of really enjoy a movie or really love a film, how much does that play into picking a role? When if a director says, oh, I'd like to work with you, if you just love some of their previous work, can you sometimes just sign up to a project thinking, well, I like your work, I trust you, sort of irrespective of the character, or do you still have to take lots of different things into consideration?
I think I almost probably would, yeah, if I'm a big fan of someone and I really like their work. But at the same time, I would definitely still read the script and definitely like still consider the character. I think that's always somewhat important, just because everyone, like every character kind of has a different essence or energy, and just that definitely does play a part of it. But I don't know, someone kind of just once told me, it's like you do a film because you either love the script, you love someone that's in it or behind it, or I can't remember what the third one is. I don't know, I can't remember what the third one is, but it's one of three. And it's like, if you have an amazing person making this film, that's going to be a big draw to do it. But if you have an amazing person making this film and you like the script, which is what happened with that project, then kind of a double whammy. But ironically, I met with him about this kind of like 5 years ago, before Patty Cakes had ever come out, but before he had Eighth Grade come out. It was really funny. It was just like, we filmed a scene of this in his living room and got connected through a casting director. So the fact that it came back like 5 years later when we both kind of done more work was really crazy and cool and funny. So yeah.
And you've worked obviously with Johanna Lumley as well. Now I was going to ask you what would she like to work with, but you can only answer that question. Oh yeah, with one answer, which is absolutely brilliant, because she is just a national treasure, and I just want to know what she's like, because she's like, whenever I've seen her in interviews and stuff, she has this kind of unmatched charisma and just someone I just love to go out just for a night just drinking with Johanna Lumley. Did you go out for a night drinking with Johanna Lumley, and how was it?
I did, yeah. I feel really bad because everyone, I mean, in Australia especially, she's a national treasure there as well. I feel like Australia is just England's little sister, and it's like, Johanna Lumley. So my entire family was ecstatic to hear that I was walking with her, and a bunch of my friends so excited, and I was so excited. And then I met her and I was like, you're exactly what I expected you to be. It's just, you know how they say never meet your idols? She's the one you want to meet. She's the one you go to meet. She's the one that's like, oh, see, it's everything I wanted and expected. She is just the coolest, most warm, welcoming, amazingly talented, incredible human being. Like, truly had such an amazing time with her. Yeah, it was honestly like an honor and a blessing to work with her.
That's the correct answer, by the way. So thanks for that. I mean, but you've worked with some brilliant people so far. Just wondering, when you're kind of on set. I mean, obviously, you know, you were a co-lead with Jennifer Aniston. So when you're working with someone who's so famous, you know, so a face that sort of, because I'm 32, so I sort of just a bit older than you, so sort of grew up just with her, with Friends, kind of, and you couldn't miss her, you know, she was kind of everywhere. When you're on set with people like that, are you able just to go right and just remove everything you've ever thought and felt about that person as an actor or actress and be very professional in the moment? Or does sometimes the kind of that not fan, but that sort of like, oh my God, I'm working with you. Does that ever filter into to a set?
It's super surreal. And I think if, you know, I went on set and just met them and had to be opposite in a scene, yes, I think that would happen. But I'm kind of lucky, like, especially working with Jen, because we were playing mother and daughter. We met in LA, but before I even got the role, actually. I had a meeting with her and you know, some of the producers and our director, and it was at her house. It was actually on my birthday. I remember I like flew in and I went straight to meet her, and I was like, this is insane. Like, this is absolutely insane. My 26th birthday, I met Jennifer Aniston. It was crazy. And but it was that I couldn't imagine at that time. I'm like, how are you meant to act opposite someone that it's crazy. And then we just started chatting and talking, and you know, she just got out of the shower and her hair was wet and she didn't have makeup on, and she was chatting with me about family and all these things. I was like, oh, you're a normal human being. Thank you. Okay. Yes. I just had to get that out of my head. You're a normal human being. We're having a conversation. And so from that moment forward, it's pretty easy to just be like, okay, we've chatted, we know each other, we're good. And you just see the other person as a human. But, honestly, on my first film, I do remember my first like kind of lead film. I did a scene with Elizabeth Banks. She was in the movie as well, and we'd done a bunch of scenes together already at this point. And I remember sitting down in this interview room, and there was just this one moment where I was like, "What is my life right now? I'm sitting doing a scene across from Elizabeth Banks." And then I remember being like, I can never think that again when I'm in the middle of a scene. Otherwise, I'm so not in the scene. I'm like, okay, let's go again. That was terrible. I'm sorry. I was just fangirling for a second. So yeah, I always remember that one moment, and I'm like, never let that slip in my head again.
So my final question before I have to go was just because I was talking to my wife the other day. She turned 30 about a month ago, so she's had to sort of turn 30 during a kind of global pandemic. And I know obviously you're sort of 30 soon, so I was just wondering about kind of tackling that kind of because it's quite a big age. I remember when I turned 30 a couple of years ago, and I remember when it felt quite like a significant moment in my life, naturally quite a reflective moment. I think it's hard not to kind of address where we are in our life and all that sort of stuff. I just wondered about that kind of going through that sort of now in this pandemic, how it feels to be sort of turning 30 at this precise moment in time.
I have no idea. It's really strange. I have a bunch of friends that have turned 30 this year, and I turn 30 next year. And it's just like, I'm sure we're going to be in the exact same place in May next year, because who knows when this is ending. But it does feel weird because I was like, okay, this is my last year of my 20s. Like, this is, you know, in your 20s, you get to explore and you get to, I don't know, like, what is it? What does everyone say about their 20s? There's all these stories, but it's like, your 20s is figuring it all out and exploring and having fun. And I'm like, yeah, the last year of my 20s, I'm going to be just in lockdown, basically. I'm not going to be able to travel. I'm not going to be able to see my family. I'm not going to be able to, work regularly. It's a very different world. It's a very different life. But I try not to place too much of an emphasis on age. I try and think more about like where I'm at in my life and what I need and stuff like that. So I'm trying not to kind of think about what 30 means or like it's a stage in your life. I'm trying to not think about that aspect of it, if that makes sense. I'm just kind of living in the now with whatever is happening, making the best of it. I'm sure when I actually turn 30, I'm gonna be like, this is so weird. I didn't get to do everything I thought I would do in my 20s. But I've also had an incredible 20s and kind of an incredible life. Especially the last few years, it's been absolutely crazy, and I've had so many opportunities and I've got to do so many incredible things. So I'm definitely not gonna complain because I've been pretty lucky.
Well, if it helps, when I woke up when I turned 30, I thought, oh my God, something's changed. I went, no, I'm still an idiot, and nothing changed. So it's fine.
Good. I love to hear that.
It's just the same. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you. And best of luck with the movie, and fingers crossed on this Burnham project. Hope it all works out.
Yeah, me too.
Right, take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey!